Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Basketball PH podcast. Enjoy the show.
Fantasy Basketball PH. Put your money where your mouth is. At ibang talakayan kaya tara halika. Fantasy Basketball PH. Fantasy Basketball PH. Ang numero unong basketball patasya ng Pinas. Fantasy Basketball PH. Dito mapag-uusapan mga ballers na likas. Fantasy Basketball PH. Put your money where your mouth is. Iba't ibang talakayan kaya tara halika. Fantasy Basketball PH ang bida na ito'y magsisilbing daungan sa mga hilig na ang basketball ay mapag-usapan. Kasama si Papi Roy, madami kang matututunan gaya ng strategy, analysis sa kaganapan. Pag-uusapan ang DFS, roto head-to-head, buy low, sell high, add, draft and trade, magic bunot at iba pang transaction sa laro. Lahat dito'y tatalakayin kaya wag na lumayo. Bida dito yung mga player na magaling kumamada, mala Nikola Jokic at Victor Wembanyama. Yung mga hustle na player like Russell and Dillon at iba pa ay dito natin pwedeng makonsyon. Let's talk about NBBL, UAAP and PBA together with NCAA and NBA. At sa lahat ng mga nangungopya ka ng literal, sa aking mga content di rin kayo magtatagal.
Okay, welcome to the Fantasy Basketball PH podcast. Of course, this is your guy, NBA Fantasy Papi Roy in the house. Ang numero unong fantasy basketball ng Pinas. Another special episode for today. But before we introduce our special guest, let me give a shout out to our sponsor in one of the big event this season for FBPH. That's going to be the FBPH Warzone. So check out Daily Fantasy at www.playdailyfantasy.com if you want to experience daily fantasy a la Filipino. So this is the first and only Filipino daily fantasy app coming this season. It didn't stop within NBA. It also gonna cater several local leagues in the country. So this is an amazing advancement in our fantasy basketball scene in the Philippines. Lead your team to the championship and check out Daily Fantasy. And of course, big shout outs to the fantasy sports analysts that joined our FBPH inaugural War Games. Big shout out to Adam King of FBI. Unfortunately, Dan Titus won't be able to join us from Yahoo Fantasy, but Noah Ruben is gonna join us. Aside from that, there are several analysts from Roto World. You have Raphael Johnson joining the Team World. You also have someone from Insight Fantasy Podcast. You have someone from Menace Padman. You have someone from Day to Day Fantasy. We got NBAFantasyBible with us. We got Bitches B-Ballin representation with us. A lot of great minds in fantasy basketball scene is going to join. It's going to be fun. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be war. So this is super exciting, and we'll take the thoughts of one of the prime members of Team World for today's episode. Let's welcome DMac. DMac, what's up?
Papi Roy, how you going, my friend?
Yeah, back to back episodes for this week. A little bit busy, but yeah, still excited. And we haven't even started the regular season.
Right. You mentioned numero uno in the Philippines before. That opening track, that was numero uno. That was a banger. Love that.
Yeah, shout out to Josh Lloyd for the voiceover. Number 1 and number 2. Shout out to Papi, the rapper. Forgot the first name. I think it's Mike Cocha who actually performed the rap. So yeah.
Very impressive. I like it a lot.
Yeah, so how's everything doing, DMac?
Good, my friend. Yeah, really busy. We're deep into pre-season, not long now until the start of the season. So trying to pump out a lot of content, a lot on Twitter or X, getting out some more YouTube as well. And of course, leagues are starting soon as well, so which we're about to talk about. Like you said, big shout out to your sponsor, Daily Fantasy. So that's awesome that we've got this league sponsored, and I'm looking forward to this war. Let's get it on.
Yeah, I think you also watch pro wrestling, right? So that's inspired that the NXT Warzone inspired this concept because I don't know what's happening in the team world because you kicked me out. Adam Kick told me like, "Hey Roy, can you go out of the GC?" But in from in our perspective, even in our team, it's a little bit chaotic in a sense that there's a lot of ideas being pitched, a lot of perspective. How about you guys? Aside from the specific details, what's happening in the team world side?
Yeah, there's a bit of strategy talk going on in the group chat, which is good. I'm still not sure what approach I'll be taking, so I'll need to clarify that with the guys very shortly. But yeah, a lot of talk around different positions and potential punts and whatnot. So that'll be really interesting to come up against some of the strategy from Team Philippines as well.
Yeah. So what's the feeling that this time it's not about you planning just for your own team. You have to take to consider your team members' teams, the actual draft wherein we might snipe your guys and whatnot. So how was the experience in terms of like visualizing what's gonna happen?
Yeah, there's been discussion around overlap and trying not to grab potential target guys as well if we're going for a certain punt. But yeah, that'll be really interesting to see how that all plays out. Just particularly, I think I'm picking at pick 10 as well. So, around that point, you've got guys like Trey Young, maybe Steph Curry, LaMelo Ball's moving up, maybe not quite as high as 10, but, you sort of have those guys that have good assists as well. So maybe that's a potential punt situation. But yeah, you can still play quite a balanced approach at that point in time. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how it all plays out.
For sure, for sure. And I think since this is going to be the first and inaugural league with this format, I'm super excited with the result. I'm super excited with the experience, especially that we won't have trades and we will only be matching with the other team, which is super interesting and exciting. And this kind of like puts a lot of way in the drafting part. So from our side, I'm actually planning to record that. Matty G, shout out to you, was asking me like, "Hey Roy, when you're recording, can you send us the link so we can watch
Oh,
your?"
so we can get some insights, live insights. I like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
I was telling him no, no,
Nah.
never. But yeah, so well, before we actually move forward and talk about the league more, to those who haven't really known you, if they haven't really followed your content, I would like you to share your story in terms of, hey, when did it actually started that you want to try and put effort and time, because for us family man, it's really hard to get extra time to really put out content for fantasy basketball, given that that's not our primary job. So what was your story, DMac?
Actually, this involves yourself. But look, I started fantasy probably around 8 or 9 years ago. So I'm still relatively new to the fantasy game overall. But probably around 5 years ago, I was thinking about possibly getting in, giving my thoughts, but just as a real fan, I try to engage with certain personalities, fantasy personalities, and some were very good and engaging, and including yourself as well. And then I decided, look, I'm going to give it a crack. It's a bit of a hobby. I'll be able to just provide some of my thoughts, some of my thinking on how I could be successful or how others could be successful in fantasy. And then it was actually yourself. And I don't know if you realize this, but you were the first person that approached me. You noticed that I had a little bit of a growing following on Twitter, which, as you described to me earlier, it's not huge over in the Philippines, which is somewhat surprising. But you reached out to me and we teamed up and did a little bit of content together, a couple of shows here and there. And then that expanded over the last couple of years as well. So that's sort of the experience. And so I pay a lot of tribute to yourself, Puppy Roy. So yeah, a bit of a surprise. I probably didn't give you the heads up, but yeah, big shout out to yourself. And obviously guys like Josh Lloyd and Dan Besbris have inspired a lot of us as well. So yeah, shout out to all of those guys. But yeah, particularly yourself, Roy.
Yeah, because I was surprised that I was the first one, because I remember when I kind of like noticed all of the things you post and all, I already have an assumption that hey, maybe NBA Fantasy Bible is an old guy because you use the Bible thing, and I was expecting, oh, maybe this is a pro that that you just used X just now, and then I was actually planning that. I would definitely learn more from NBA Fantasy
from an old,
Bible,
from an old
and
guy.
and then during that time, there, I was thinking there's no way I can easily ask like the Josh Lloyds and all because they're busy, right? So it's more of like really empowering us in the middle and in the bottom who's trying to start off their content. And I was thinking, oh, why not check out other people who's with the same content and also starting. So it's a not a bad idea. And then yeah, it just happened, and I'm happy to be part of your very growing career, DMac, and yeah, looking
And I will
forward
add,
to do more.
I was just going to add as well that I still find it quite peculiar that a lot of us, particularly myself, are called analysts because I just do it for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I there's not too much analysis, and I don't go into the heavy statistic like Josh Lloyd does, and I like to keep it simple, and I find that fun, and hopefully people find that refreshing as well.
And we don't have tools as well, right? I mean, it's definitely an advantage if we have the machinery, the tools, and all. We have sites, we have subscriptions, but it's possibly it's because we do an analysis, but it's in a perspective of coming from a fan on the first that's being fan first, and then taking a consideration with the experiences that we had either from our leagues and also working with the actual fantasy basketball analysts that we have in the industry. So I actually noticed that as well because I don't like using the word influencer or I don't know. I'm just not comfortable if
I think the
someone
term that you
messages
used
me.
a while ago was personality, fantasy
Yeah.
personality, and I find that pretty fun as well. But I'll be a personality if you like. I'm a personality at home with my kids. That's about it, really.
For sure. Well, I don't know if you noticed. I was invited to join the Ito Sports with Aaron Bruski, Dr. A, and Rick Kamla. The whole
Yeah.
time, I was holding myself because I was fanboying, especially to Rick Kamla, because he's really part of the reason why I started doing the content. Well, mainly is Josh Lloyd because we I reached out to him. We had several messages, and he told me that hey, just try it out. But before when the time that there's not a lot of references, I remember that I spent time waiting for the NBA TV and the small minutes. I think that's just 5 to 10 minutes of Rick Kamla talking about fantasy. That's my only source.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
zero source. So when I was talking to him, I don't know, I was fanboying back then, but I had to compose myself and think of the draft and all. But it was fun. I mean, coming from us who started off like just plain simple people doing a hobby and trying to share our thoughts. It we've known each other for the couple of years, and I guess it's fun seeing us together, being invited and jumping in several shows. Wherein before we're just talking it out from ourselves and sharing thoughts about what they do.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Yeah.
good job
Yeah.
to the both of us, I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely, and particularly as it is a hobby, like you said, it purely is a hobby. I don't get paid for doing any of this, so it's great. It's really good. And I just remember when I used to engage with people, even people like Adam King. He was one of the best people at engaging with people with questions on Twitter. Um, a lot of it you sort of know, and a lot of your viewers would know these things, but a lot of the time you're just seeking validation. Am I doing the right thing? What do you think of my team? What do you think of this trade? More often than not, you know the answer. You've particularly those that are well versed and well experienced in fantasy, but you are still seeking validation. And sometimes the validation that you get from an analyst may not always be spot on, but we try to use critical thinking. And sometimes it's obvious to most of us, but it's not obvious to everyone. And sometimes in your league, not everyone has the ability to look at shows and watch shows by yourself or look at basketball monster or hashtag basketball. So if you have any sort of advantage by watching your content or going onto these websites, you do that. You take advantage where you can.
Yeah, and I also think it's about our vibe and the environment we create, because we started as fans, and the reason why we engage with the Adam Kings, the Josh Lloyds of the industry, is because it's fun to talk to someone that resonates with the thing that you also love, right? That you spend time to try to understand and try to be good at it. So it's more of like a growing organism of some sort, wherein,
Yeah.
hey, you also know fantasy. You know what? And then you start off talking. So
Yeah.
yeah, the engagements are kind of like our salary for now.
Yeah. And I don't really want to promote my show too much, but just a nice segue. I launched a new show last week called Between Two Hoops Around the World. And the concept was to get fans, but fantasy freaks like ourselves, but people that don't have the ability or the opportunity or the time to typically start creating content. But I wanted those people that have a lot of knowledge and have been engaging with a lot of analysts over the many, many years. I wanted them to come on the show, and we had some fantastic people come on the show and give their insights into all things fantasy. And yeah, they would consider themselves just fans, but it was such an amazing experience. So yeah, just making it really accessible to everybody is really what we want. And then you see people like Kayla Fonte, who we have the pleasure of working with quite often, just making it more accessible to obviously now girls, and she's got Bitches Be Balling as well, and having an all-female league. It's really fantastic, particularly for myself, who has two daughters. Not necessarily for them to be fantasy analysts, but just to make sport accessible to them.
Exactly, because I think that's why we also love the industry. There's a big uh support group that is behind us. We keep supporting each other. And then you mentioned earlier about really providing that avenue to um unknown people that apparently are good, right? Because even in my shows and in my post, I always tell them that I'm not the best in the Philippines. Definitely not. Definitely not. Hoping to be at least at par with the best. Definitely, there's gonna be someone from the Philippines, maybe in a condo, or maybe even far away from the province, that knows and can analyze better than me. But it's just about us being a beacon and being, outlet of uh, um, pushing them that, hey, let's engage, and then let's help us help you be pulled in the spotlight, so you can actually share your thoughts, and your
Absolutely.
concept is very, very good for those. And shout out to Pat Mamba. I saw Pat Mamba joining your
He
episode,
did a really
the
good
recent.
job. Next Level Fantasy. Yeah, he did a great job.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk fantasy. I Matty G thought that this is sneaky, because I'm gonna ask like the players you kind of like. But I was telling even Kyla yesterday that, come on, people already know people that you like.
Yeah.
So I guess that's part of being the analyst or content creators that we do. So we have to share the thoughts. So before you do that, I have to ask you a question. Do you still have secrets that you don't share in your content in terms of how you analyze fantasy? Like, hey, let me not focus on this guy for a moment.
No, no, I don't do that. Whatever observation I see, and I think there could be some sort of value in a certain player, I'll always share it. There's no real secrets with me, um, but I do harp on certain players, and if you haven't caught on, um, just based on the amount of tweets that I do about certain players, I think you're probably not following me very intently. So I'm very hot on certain players, as you probably are aware.
There you go. Because I was noticing that because I've been organizing a lot of leagues. And then I already experienced several times like, oh, let me get this earlier because I know Papi Roy is gonna get it. And it
Yeah,
won't come back to me. So it's a pain in the you know where. But
yeah.
it's still fun. It's still fun. And shout out to one of our followers, I forget his name, who gave a very good feedback last draft that we had. He was telling me that he didn't see any flaw in the team that I built for Nikola Jokic. It's for a 14 team. And I was thinking, oh, let me post it to give props to him. But I remember I still have a couple of leagues to do. And this is
Yeah.
the point that I want to make, that sometimes I will eventually share it to the community, but I'm placing it like forward just to still have an advantage for certain drafts. But and
Yeah.
enough of me. So let's go back to you. First couple of rounds. Who are your guys?
Yeah, no secret. Yeah, just based on the amount of content that I put out, I love James Harden this season. End of the first round, he could even push into that first round, 11 or 12 pick. But I really love James Harden. Obviously, no PG-13. Question marks around Kawhi Leonard's health as well. I think we saw it in a couple of the preseason games as well. So he's going to have a massive amount of usage. He's going to have a beautiful pick and roll game with Ivica Zubac, which is another guy that I really like in the later rounds. But he's going up draft boards really quickly as well for the same reason as James Harden. But yeah, in that sort of first round turn, I really like James Harden there. In the second round, I really like Dame Lillard. I think he's
Yeah.
being underdrafted, but I have noticed probably in the last week or so that he's going up boards a little bit more, but he's still going close to the end of the second round. I've been able to pick him up in a lot of drafts, in real drafts as well, end of the second round, which has been great for my teams, but I'm sort of still surprised that he isn't going a little bit higher. Um, I know I did a tweet yesterday about LaMelo Ball, and that was sort of just hyping up his performance in preseason. I'm still very wary of those ankles. So I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket with LaMelo Ball. There's still a lot of risk there. But someone like Dame, I'm really, really big on. And then, of course, J-Dub, Jalen Williams. If you can get him in the third round, I think that's a real win because I do expect him to be close to top 20 this season. And that's probably a big call, but we spoke about it on one of my shows the other night. But I can see that pathway there. Without Josh Giddey, I think he facilitates a little bit more at OKC alongside of SGA. And I think he's going into his third season. I think he's still got room to improve as well. Beautiful efficiency game. But yeah, with the assists, I even spoke sort of at length, but about the number of deflections. You know, he's a clear top 10 guy in terms of deflections. So I think that didn't necessarily translate into steals. Still a decent steals guy, but I think he's got room to improve on those steals. And as we all know, steals are the most variable cat in 9-cat as well. So I think he can go up that ranking board throughout the season just with a little bit more opportunity to get those steals.
He actually shot the most uh threes in the preseason. So
Mm.
I guess that's a good indicator because as good as of a shooter, a 3 point, specifically 3 point shooter as he is, he doesn't attempt a lot. So uh of course it could ding couple of percentage, but still it's gonna give more counting stats to J Dub. And Matty, I forget if it was Matty or Adam King when we had a conversation about uh before it was Double J being picked, Jalen Johnson ahead of J Dub.
Mm.
Currently, it switched. It seems like Double J is falling, and then there's a lot of people who actually are taking J Dub.
Yeah, I can interchange them. Daily, I will switch my mind about who I'd rather have, and maybe it comes down to whoever you pick in the first two rounds. But Jalen Johnson looks awesome as well. I think he's got another gear to get to. I've been tweeting about him a fair bit in the last few days as well. But yeah, I think he's going to be the number 2 offensive guy on the Hawks team. More opportunity to be a bit of a facilitator as well. And again, I spoke about this the other night, but that triple double last season came out of nowhere. But if he's got that type of game, plus obviously he's got good field goals, rebounds, pretty good defense as well. Uh, the sky's the limit for this guy. So yeah, he's another one of our breakthrough guys.
How about the middle rounds? Any particular player you like in the middle rounds? You mentioned Zubac a couple of minutes ago, so that's around middle to late middle rounds.
Yeah, I really like Zubats. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of value, and this is a little bit risky as well. But I've picked up Bradley Beal in a few spots as well. I liked what he was doing at the end of last season, and yes, he's always going to have that injury-prone tag, but he has looked healthy in the preseason and in the off-season. We know that he was previously obviously a top round or first round guy in Washington. He's never getting back to that ever, particularly alongside a KD and alongside a Booker. Now there's Tyce Jones as well, so there's even more guys to share the ball with, but I like him around his ADP is I think it's around that 70, 75 mark. So if you can get him around that point, and I have picked him up a little bit earlier than that, but if you can get him around that ADP, I think there's some real value in Bradley Bill if you can be patient, and hopefully he does stay healthy this season.
Yeah, because it's currently in as far as I remember in Yahoo, it's around round 4, 60-ish. And in
Hmm.
that area, there's a couple of names that are being reached during actual draft. So I would see him falling and then, getting more value than expected because, at that area, scoring is gonna fall. So and quality guards is also gonna fall. So it fits the bill.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do
I
like
think so too.
Bradley with Bill there.
Yep.
You just did the sleeper episode, right? The,
We did.
people love this later rounds. Who are
Mm.
your guys?
Yeah, I don't have my list in front of me, but I'm pretty well versed in this one. But at the top, it's Amen Thompson, and he's getting a lot of hype, and he's looked really good in preseason. But Amen Thompson close to the ADP of around 100, and I think he's going to really beat that, particularly if at some stage he does start ahead of Dylan Brooks. I don't know if that's going to happen straight away on opening night, but throughout the season, I could see it happening even without an injury. Of course, he's a great plug and play guy if Fred Van Vliet's injured, or if Dylan Brooks isn't playing, or anyone really in that starting five. We saw it at the end of last season. Shengun went down injured. Plug in Amen Thompson, and he looked awesome. So I think he's one of my real hot targets around that 100 mark. Onyeka Kongwu, shout out to Eric of Day to Day Fantasy, who's also in this league as well. So I think he would still be keen on Onyeka Kongwu, but again, I spoke about this on the show the other night. For the fact that the Hawks didn't take Alex Sarr at number one and took Rissa Shea, and Rissa Shea has looked good in preseason. I will give you that, but I still believe that Sarr has the higher upside. But for them to take Rissa Shea ahead of Sarr, yes, there were some issues with Sarr wanting to work out with the Hawks. I don't think he even wanted to be there. Just a plethora of talent in that front court. But for them not to take him and force his hand, it sort of indicates to me that they're going to lean into Onyeka Okongwu longer term. Yes, Capella is still there, and Capella's still probably going to start, but we've seen it in the past. He was a high draft pick. I just think, and it could just be a gut feel, but I just think this is the season for Okongwu.
I was expecting you're gonna mention it. This is gonna be year to Larry Nance, but
Yeah, not quite, not quite.
yeah, but yeah, shout out to Eric. And one good reason to pick Onyeka Okongwu is the value that he has right now. I think it's, you can easily pick him compared to last couple of seasons wherein people are just, going crazy and picking him in the early mid round, sometimes even earlier. So
Yeah,
this time, Onyeka Okongwu, your guy as well, Jordan Poole,
yeah,
with almost same hype, still the same situation,
yeah.
but with better value. So you can't say no. That's
I've been hesitant to hype up Paul too much, but I am quietly excited about him just because he is going to take that point guard role. Malcolm Brogdon is injured. There's no Tyce Jones anymore. I think he's going to be awesome this season. But yeah, just PTSD from last season, as you know. I really liked him going into last season, so I'm just backing away from that slightly. But I've still talked about him a fair bit in some content I've put out. But just going back to a Okongwu at an ADP of 118, for me, that's his baseline. Even if he does play the secondary or the backup center and he doesn't get to the 26, 28 sort of minute a game role, I still think he's going to be able to get that ADP, if not better than that, as real floor level. So I think he's got a good 30, 40 spots of value if he can get that starting spot.
yeah. And I was looking at in that area, one good incentive for anyone to actually pick Okongwu. You have two big Dallas guys there. Totally fine. But if you're trying to be picky about it, Dallas has a bad two-game week in the playoffs. So, calm down the decision. It could be
Mm.
a factor, right? You
Yeah.
also have a Walker Kessler. I like Walker Kessler. He has technically a better chance to slug a roll, but
Yeah.
it's Utah Jazz. We don't know. We John Collins might be shopped and play ahead of Walker Kessler, which is a bad move for the Utah Jazz. But then again, it's about what the actual team is planning this season. I think it's Danny Ainge, as slick as he is. I think he's gonna pull some moves this season. So I really like the Okongwu in that area. I have a question for you with regards to your boy Amen Thompson.
Hmm.
Amen, Pods, or Keontae George?
Give me a man. Easy. Easy.
Easy. Yeah. How about Amen? Let's put hmm. What interesting player could nudge DMac in not
Yeah.
taking Amen? Amen or Zubac?
Ooh. That one may come down to need as well and team build. They're both going to have good seasons. I just think I'm in longer term. I know you're talking about redraft, so just for this season, but longer term, I could see top 35, top 40 dynasty potential. Uh, that's a tough one, puppy. Why do that to me? Look, maybe we'll just go amen. We'll just go amen just for
Yeah.
the upside as well.
There you go. And that's how you actually own a my guy player. Come on, I mean that's how it's being done. You try to create a perspective out of it. Of course, we all have a chance to be wrong, for sure. But then again, that's the fun with fantasy basketball. You have to be creative. You have to base it on something, maybe something you read, you heard, you watched, and then you create your own storyline, and we validate it as we play fantasy basketball. I always look at it as a storyline per player. So like for me, for example, so I was thinking of a topic when Josh Lloyd invited me. Initially, I was really trying to pick someone that people hated. I thought of really making a case of Zach Lavine. But then again, I was inspired by Mitch Casey because they didn't talk about specific players. So I thought that, hey, Josh, can I scrap Zach Lavine and talk about like a generic topic about fantasy basketball? And then couple of hours before, Josh messaged me like, hey, Roy, because I was about to do Jordan Poole. Matty G is gonna do Jordan Poole. So, I wanted to shout out D-Mac. I wanted to create some hype because Filipinos love Jordan Poole as well. There's a lot of Warriors fan before, and then the punching of Draymond Green and all. It was a fun thing to talk about. It's light and it's I know I just think it's a fun thing to talk about. So I switched to Alex R. Because as I was looking at the guest, most are actually playing standard 12 leagues, and most are actually picking the mainstays of the fantasy basketball. So I thought that, hey, let me try to check out players in the bottom that people hated and who would have loved Alexar's performance in the summer league. So I thought, hey, let me try to make a case about Alexar. Good thing, couple of days before that, I drafted first in one, the lone first pick in my season this year for Wemby. And it kind of like popped in my mind that so that's the selling point of Alexar. If you want to create a good build for Wemby or Chet, or go against Wemby or Chet in terms of blocks, I think he's a must. I think he's not
Yeah.
just a last pick, which is happening right now. I think
Yeah.
he's like the backup plan. Maybe people will say, "Oh, you're reaching Alexar," but then again, you have to clear about the reason why you're trying to get him. It's
Yeah.
because you're trying to pump the blocks because you have Wemby or you're trying to beat Wemby. So that was my train of
And
thought.
I've seen a fair bit of Alex Sarr. He played for the local team here in the NBL in Australia, here in Perth last season. He had flashes. nothing as good as that exhibition game against the G League Ignite, and he just looked fantastic. But yeah, like you said, he's almost like the poor man's Wemby, but he's got that, just the baseline of the blocks is just going to prop up his value. So if people are so obsessed with looking at value and they go, oh, Alex, he's only been floated by blocks. Well, okay, that's probably why you've got him in the late rounds as well. If he's been taken at pick 130, that's probably what you needed. You needed a bit of a boost in rebounds and blocks. Perfect. So he also has that upside as well. I still think he's the number one rookie in terms of fantasy. Maybe not overall skill level, but in terms of fantasy, his stat set I think is superior to Reed Shepherd, superior to Zach Edey. It just may not all happen for him this season, but I think in a dynasty, I know a lot of people love Reed, but for me, it's Alex Sarr.
Yeah, and one thing that I forgot to point out about Alex Sarr is, remember when Serge Ibaka was young? I think Josh Lloyd has been pointing this one out. The those blocker types of player, the more they age, the more they get, I guess, mature and smart in
Mm-hmm.
defending the ball.
Yeah.
So it deflates their blocks. It's more of like quality blocks over number of blocks. Good
Yeah.
thing it's Alex Sarr, young, and he's playing in the Washington Wizards who needs defense alongside Valanciunas. So I was thinking,
Yeah.
oh, he is gonna go bunkers in terms of blocks, especially if he can't get it going in the offense. I think he's gonna be asked to really, get hype blocks. Good for the basketball side of the things because defense is great, and good for the fans because Washington Wizards doesn't have as like the Lakers fans and younger. Not younger, more of like this generation Stephen Curry's fans. Well, they had Jordan Poole, but I was thinking there's a lot of aspects that Washington Wizards is more of like really gonna push Alex Hart to do a lot of things,
Mm.
especially with the direction that we have right now, wherein Wemby, Chet, and those types has the similar body type as Alex Hart. So yeah.
Mm. And how's the French Revolution as well? My God, the amount of
Oh,
talent coming
come
through.
on! They,
Insane.
they can create an all-star team against the U.S. team, right? So great, good God, French, can you give some genes to the Filipino people? um, Before we end the session, I wanted you to give a shout out, give a message to the Filipino community. You already have a link within your family
Do.
with the
Yeah.
Filipino blood, right?
Yeah.
So opening this area for you to actually do a shout out, and then on the back of it, just trash talk the team Philippines.
Yeah, well, big shout out. As you've alluded to, yeah, I do have some Filipino blood as well, and I've been to the Philippines many, many times, probably 7 or 8 times. Actually, I got some new ink as well, and there's a little bit of Filipino. I don't know if you can see that, Roy. I'll just
Yeah,
move the microphone, but the Filipino sun above the lion design that blows because I'm a massive family man. But yeah, so there's a little bit of Filipino heritage around the new ink that I got a couple of weeks ago. Um, but I know that Filipinos are just so passionate about basketball, fantasy basketball as well, but just NBA in general. And um, I just can't wait to get into this league as well and just hopefully bring some joy to those that are involved and those that are going to be continuing to watch your content as well. And love to see more Filipinos get involved and maybe even more Filipinos get onto Twitter and engage with all of us so-called analysts or personalities as well. But yeah, have a special bond with the Philippines and a real love for the people there and the culture.
there you go. And can you now turn on your evil side and give some message to your opponents in the war zone?
Yeah. Oh, well, to be honest, we're just going to kick some ass, aren't we? So it's going to be a no contest. I think, as I said, we're already talking strategy. So just be prepared. As I like to say to my kids, I'm a little bit harsh when we play sport. Get ready to lose.
There you go, there you go. Because one thing that you'll notice in the Filipino community, we're all kind, courteous, and smiley, but when it comes to games, not necessarily just fantasy basketball, even Dota or usual games, we love to trash talk, and we love to trash talk even when losing. So the winning part, not a guarantee, but the trash talk part, 200%
I've seen some
guarantee.
Filipino games. I've seen Filipino basketball league games as well, and man, the amount of trash talk in that, and there's some violence as well. And I think a few years ago, the Australian Boomers in the
There you
Philippines
go.
had a bit of a run in as well. So yeah, I get it. You get onto that court, and there's a whole heap more passion.
I to be honest, I don't want to bring that with the Adam King with the Josh Lloyds. Like, hey, why not create a fantasy basketball Warzone League and let's do Filipino versus Australia? I don't want to ignite something because we love Australia. But yeah, maybe some other time. There's gonna be a different way to bond, right?
Or maybe I could be the poster boy because I'm the double agent.
Yeah, you're the double agent. Okay, so yeah, there you go. So this is a DMac NBA Fantasy Bible for you. Shout out to DMac. He's been one of the most consistent new personality slash analyst slash source of fantasy inputs. Very interactive. So if you have any questions, just follow him at NBA Fantasy Bible in his Twitter and X. He usually do you have like a schedule for your contents for
Yeah,
in between two hoops?
typically it'll be weekly, but what Kayla and I will try to be doing is shorter shows and more frequent shows as well. So a lot more content, more videos, but just less of the really long, sloggy videos as well. So probably like the 20 to 30-minute types of videos rather than the hour-long videos.
There you go. There you go. When I was trying to think of a concept to make it shorter, I was planning like I'm gonna create a 10-second reel saying Jordan Bull bad, Ben Simmons don't draft,
Yeah, I like it.
Alexander draft. That's that.
Yeah, I
No
like it.
explanations. Just Adam. But yeah, we are gonna think. Me and DMac has been close for quite some time. We are definitely gonna think of something. It's part of our blood, I guess, to be creative, especially in the hobby that we love. So looking forward to do more stuff aside from leagues and all. I have you playing in Adam King's league, the customized leagues for head-to-head roto. We're currently drafting right now.
Yeah.
Kayla told me you sniped his Trey Young. She was planning to take Trey Young,
Is
but
that right? Yeah.
she got yesterday she told me, oh, I was planning to get Trey Young and James Harden, but apparently D-Mac took Trey Young. So yeah,
Yeah.
so
I
shout out
grabbed
to
them a bit
Adam
early,
King.
but yeah.
Yeah, sure. But this is just a fun league as well. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, DMac. I won't take much of your time. We're gonna see you more, and then everyone just follow NBA Fantasy Bible. There's a lot of contents being shared. There's podcasts. There's tweets and all. So maybe this is the sign for you to actually create your X or Twitter account and then follow these guys because Twitter is fun. It can be messy sometimes, but we're all adults here. I guess so. You just have to be adult and have fun around it. Okay, so wrapping up this episode, thank you so much, DMAC. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much
Roy.
to our sponsor, Daily Fantasy. Another episode in the book. This is your NBA Fantasy Papi. Bye bye.